So today I will be ranking from. So I will be ranking Spider-Man video games from from each. So I'm gonna rank every Spider-Man game that I have so far on every platform, from worst to best, and I've put them all in a pile, and it was very hard to actually figure out like worst to best. So this is not based off fact. This is not based off what other people think. This is my personal opinion on what I think is the worst and the best Spider-Man game out there. So this is going to be probably a long list. So let's get started. So I can't believe I actually bought this, but or I can't even believe they actually made this game this way, but. Spider-Man 3 on Nintendo DS is literally the worst version of Spider-Man 3 out there. It's even worse than the Game Boy Advance version. And that one's not the best either because it's a pretty short game. But this is actually the worst one out there because it's because oh crap. So the entire gameplay, you cannot use your analog stick. Actually, they didn't have analog sticks back then for DS, but still. You couldn't use, like, the arrows to, like, move your character. You couldn't use any other buttons. You had to use the stylus to move, to make him jump, to make him hit, to make him web swing. You had to use the stylus for everything. Because of that, I couldn't even get past level 1. It was very annoying, and I don't know why Nintendo DS thought it was a good idea to make it an all-stylus game for a Spider-Man game. That just makes it much, much more difficult. Next. Spider-Man on Game Boy Color. So, this is like the Game Boy Color version of Spider-Man on PS1. The gameplay is absolutely different. The characters look different. It doesn't even look anything like Spider-Man on PS1. But I guess Game Boy Color had different electronics, so it was different like technology. So I don't think they had the technology to make it look like Spider-Man PlayStation 1. But I couldn't get very far on this game either because... And most of the time, which... Don't laugh, please. Well, you probably will anyway, but majority of the time that I kept dying is because I kept getting hit by birds. Birds. In the air, even in the sewers. I kept getting hit by bats. And by the time I'd reached the sewers, I had no idea, and that's the point where you have like no idea where to go. Because it's like a freaking maze. But I constantly get hit by birds. And then I die. And then once you use up all your lives, you have to start all over. And there's no like save game progress in this. So if you die, you start over. And it's easy to die in this game because it's full of because you just keep getting hit by birds. Spider-Man 2, same concept. Spider-Man 2 from PS1, made into Game Boy Color version. It's a little easier, but still wasn't easy enough to actually beat. Because also like the first one, controls were like you can only do like so much for controls. You can only just like move your character and then make him jump, and then you couldn't use the R and L button for like playing this on the Game Boy SP. So it's a little better. It's a little easier, but not easy enough. Spider-Man 2 on the DS. Oh boy. This game's... I have beaten this before. It's not impossible to beat, but it's very difficult to beat because this game is full of death traps. In so many ways. Mostly fires. And when you get hit, it pushes Spider-Man back. And sometimes when you get knocked up, the ending is worse because if you get hit by robots from Doc Ock, he will knock you off the platform and you end up falling in the river. That happened to me so many times. It gets so frustrating. You end up like wanting to throw the machine. This is actually one of the hardest Spider-Man games out there because it's full of death traps. Now, these two, from like the original Game Boy, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man, X-Men. You can't really do much on the controls except just like Game Boy Color, but it's kind of worse than that. So, and plus, I've never really gotten like very far with these two either, and I guess not growing up with original Game Boy, it's just not the best Spider-Man games out there, but they're good for collection. Now, next. Now, I don't know what your guys' opinion on this one, but I don't think this is really the best Spider-Man video game out there on PS3 because, for one thing, it's Amazing Spider-Man, but it's not Amazing Spider-Man. So, what I'm saying is that this game, like... So, this takes place after the Amazing Spider-Man movie, but the voices from the main characters are not the same from the movies. So, that's not the dumbest part. The dumbest part is that for Spider-Man, it's the same voice as Spider-Man from Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. It is not Andrew Garfield. Like, why? Not to mention this game not to mention the gameplay, the features are kind of cheesy. It's like they could have made this game they could have made this game better. They could have done better with this game. It's like not the worst Spider-Man game in the world, but it's like I'd prefer playing this on the Vita rather than on the PS3. I mean, it's not the best. Next, Amazing Spider-Man 2. They have improved some compared to the previous one. They did improve graphics. They improved the health bar. They improved... they have improved some. It's like, I'd give this like a... I'd give this like a 3 out of 5. This I can't really complain. This is actually much better than the first game because graphics are a lot better. Did they use the same voices as the first one and Shattered Dimensions? Yes. The only thing I did not like about this one is that the gameplay, even though it does not take place before or after the movie itself, and it still takes place during, it doesn't match with the movie. That's my only issue with this one, that the gameplay does not match with the movie. Shattered Dimensions. So this is actually the first time I have ever heard of like Spider-Man from the past and the future. So this is the game where I actually discovered that there were like other Spider-Man in different dimensions, and I'd say this one's actually the hardest to play because this one's like stealth, and it's very hard to actually hit somebody with a gun if you're spotted. I'm gonna move on to Game Boy Advance version. So this one, Ultimate Spider-Man, Battle New York, Ultimate Spider-Man on the DS, Web of Shadows on DS. I can't really complain. It's like I can't really complain about it, but it's just that I haven't really like played these all that much. Same as this one, Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man's not horrible on the original DS. I just didn't really like get very far, and didn't really play them all that much. So I'm showing them anyway, but I'm just gonna like scroll past that. Edge of Time is actually pretty good. Don't really remember much of the gameplay because it's been a while since I've played it, but I never managed to like beat it yet, because I guess I got stuck somewhere. So Spider-Man 3 on Game Boy Advance. The gameplay itself is not terrible, but the game could have been a lot longer. You could basically beat this game in like maybe 20-30 minutes. This game is really not that long. But the gameplay is not bad. It's pretty good. The only downside I'd say is that once you like gain black suit, if you get hit once, you lose the black suit, and then you have to keep like beating up bad guys until there's like a bar that's like full, until there's like a certain like bar that's full and then turns to black suit. I don't understand why they did it like that. But you were able to like break down certain walls with the black suit, and but this is a game where you can like beat in a few minutes. So the game itself is like not very long. That's the only problem that I have with it. But other than that, it's really not that bad. This one is a bundle. So Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2. This is actually one of my favorites for Game Boy Advance. So if you want to see that closely. So yeah, it still works. Had it for a good few years, I think since 2020. And I've beaten both of them. Surprisingly, Spider-Man 2 is actually easier than Spider-Man 1. I'd say the hardest part in Spider-Man 1 is fighting Kraven the Hunter. The second time, not the first time, because this part kind of gets to the point where you kind of want to like throw your system, because he'll like regenerate like 3 times. Now, if you want to keep yourself from constantly being hit but want to keep on hitting him, you gotta like, because he'll jump and then try to stab you. If you time it right, you can like get up, you can like jump up in the air at the same time as him and then hit him in the air. You keep doing that and keep doing that and keep doing that during the 3 times he like regenerates or heals. It's like you'll beat him eventually. So Spider-Man 2 is easier, and I've actually beaten both of these. So but they're very great for Game Boy Advance. Next on the list is we're gonna move on to the PSP. What's it called? Web of Shadows. The gameplay is not really the same as the PS3 version. Um, but it's still pretty good. Like, I recently managed to actually beat this one, but the graphics are pretty good. It's like this sideways game. You're not really like swinging around a city. It's like you're playing a Spider-Man on Game Boy Advance, but like with much better graphics. All I can say is that this one is pretty good for PSP, and I'm pretty sure the PS2 version is exactly the same. So, I think PSP I never had a PSP back in 2000 in the 2000s, like some people did, but I think PSP is pretty impressive for 2004. I mean, I think PSP was ahead of its time for a handheld system. But I've had this game for quite a while, and then I think last year I managed to beat this. So pretty good, pretty good. I would put that in the middle, because it's a pretty decent game. Spider-Man 3. Now, this is exactly the same version as the one from PlayStation 2. Exactly the same as PlayStation 2. I'd prefer that version on the PSP over the PS2 version because I don't have very much expectations for PSP because it's a handheld system. So the graphics for Spider-Man 3 on PS2 or the one on PSP, I prefer the graphics look a lot better on the game. Actually looks a lot better on PSP than PS2 because the graphics on PS2 are absolutely horrible. But for PSP, you can't really expect games to look that good because it's a handheld from the 2000s. So, but the PS2 version, the graphics were absolutely horrible. Spider-Man 2 graphics looked better than that, and that was back in 2004. They could have made the graphics a whole lot better. It's like they could have made the graphics a little more clear. Everything in the city was creamy. And I don't know why they did this, but every time you do a web swing, you would hear a roller coaster sound every time he'd swing. I don't understand why people like that version over the PS3 version, which I'm gonna get to that part later. Now, Spider-Man 2 on PSP. Pretty good game. I think the game could have been longer, but this was a pretty short Spider-Man video game, but the gameplay, the graphics looked a lot better than Spider-Man 3, but it was pretty much the same concept as Spider-Man 1 on PlayStation 2. The features and stuff, but the graphics, the health bar, it's the features looked better, but the concept was the same. The only downside about this game is that it's pretty short. I mean, you could probably beat this in maybe past a half hour, or it'll feel like a half hour. You don't even have to save progress with this one because you could just play the entire game and then done in less than an hour, maybe a half hour. But the gameplay itself is pretty good. I ain't gonna complain, despite how short it is. Web of Shadows. It's like a cartoon version of Spider-Man 3 on PS3. It's pretty okay. I mean, it's actually really, really good. It did a lot more. It did more than Spider-Man 3 did, but even though even though I don't think Spider-Man 3 on PS3 is it's like, I don't think this one is as good as Spider-Man 3 on PS3. I don't know why. I guess maybe that's just me, but this is not a bad game. This is actually pretty fun. You get to fight a bunch of symbiotes. Like, this game is like it's pretty much like if a city had, they pretty much showed like the city like have an apocalypse of symbiotes, and you're constantly like fighting symbiote after symbiote after symbiote. So the game itself is pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Ultimate Spider-Man. This is like the animated version of Spider-Man 2 on PS2. I actually got lucky. I got the Ultimate Edition. So because of the book. Oh. Well, I didn't even know this. But this one, no, not this one. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. Ah. So I didn't know this, but this one has a comic book to it. Oh yes, this is definitely a comic book. I guess that's what came with the limited edition. So actually, I got lucky with this one. I bought like the limited edition version, and I'm like, I don't even know how. I'm not exactly sure how rare this one is. If someone can tell me in the comments, like comments below, like how rare a limited edition version of this is, that would be nice. Because I think I might have gotten lucky. Because it says limited edition. But I didn't, I just found out there was a comic book in here. Or actually, I didn't know I thought these were just, like, extra, like, instruction manual. I didn't know I had a comic book in here. So, that's nice. Next. Now, this was my childhood. Any of you at my age that have played this game, please comment below and tell, like, anybody around my age, like, I'm 27 right now, and any of you around my age that have had this as a child, tell me in the comments and let me know what you thought about this game. You can even tell me about this one as well, like your experience as well. But yeah, this is one of the. I had awesome memories with this game. I've had this game since I was 8, maybe 9. I'm 27 years old, so I have had this game for about 20 years now. And I've beaten this game so many times. There's no way I would ever get rid of this game, ever. It's like, I will keep this game until I die. Even though I rarely ever play it anymore, this is not something I still would want to get rid of, because this is a game from my childhood. And it's one. So there's like a lot to talk about this one, and I'm gonna talk about it anyway. So when I was like 8 or 9, after I got my first PlayStation, so like I got the PS1 at the time, and I wanted Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 2, so like the one on PlayStation 2 so badly, because I was like obsessed with that game at the time. But then my dad was like, yeah, you can't really play it on this system because that's PlayStation 2. The system you have is PlayStation 1. And I was like bummed. I was like, oh man, that sucks. And then I was like, okay, then why can't I get a PS2? And he goes, well, PS2s cost a lot of money. It's like, This is the first time I ever heard of a game system that was like over $100. Keep in mind, I was like 8 years old, and that was a time I didn't even know that people get paid at jobs for like more than $100, technically. But I thought $100 was a lot of money at the time. But yeah, I played this so many times that it's already to a point where the cutscenes are like slowing down, but the gameplay still works fine. But the cutscenes are like very, very slow, like right in the middle of it, and it does get kind of annoying because I'm like keep on clicking the X button like so many times, and I'm like, come on. And then, like, eventually it skips the cutscene and then goes to the gameplay. So the gameplay works fine. The cutscenes are very slow, but I guess this game probably comes with age because I've had it for so long. I had a couple of friends back in 2005, 2006. Actually, then they moved like in 2011. As children, we used to play this game a lot on my PS1, on his PS1, their PS1. They also had an N64, which Nintendo 64 was okay. It's pretty much Nintendo's version of PS1, so and the best thing about the scariest thing about this game is that at the end they add something like that's like an exclusive to the game. It's not really found in like any other movie, TV show, or comic book or any other game. But after you defeat Carnage, the symbiote goes to Doc Ock and then he becomes Monster Ock. Now, that's a mission where it leaves you shaking because it gets intense. It's like you have to run from him because the place is about to explode. But Monster Ock is also too powerful because he's got 4 mechanical arms and then he's got, the symbiote as well. And the Carnage symbiote, Carnage is worse than Venom. Like, Carnage is like more dangerous than Venom because he can make, because not only does he have like sharp claws, but he can also make like sharp weapons with his own symbiote, and he can turn himself into a porcupine and shoot those porcupine spikes right at you. It's like he will rip you. It's like Carnage can rip you to shreds. I'd be scared if I fought something like if I was like standing in front of something like that. I'd be terrified. But anyway, moving on. This is the sequel to this one. Now, the story itself is not as good as this one because this one doesn't exactly like have as much. It's like they don't really like none of the characters from the previous one like ever like is not in this one. None of the other older villains, like none of the other villains that were in this one they come back in this one. It's totally different. It's got it does have Sandman. It has Electro. I mean, the game is called Enter Electro. And you also fight like I've never even heard of the Beetle. But they do show him, but you don't fight him. Like, they only briefly show him. But it's like when you play Spider-Man games, you do like discover like villains you've never even like heard of before. Like, I have not heard of Hammerhead until I played this game. I've never heard of the Beetle, or actually I've never even heard of Sandman until Spider-Man 3 came out. But I'd say the like graphics are better, a little bit better in this one. Like, they have improved a little bit with this one. This one they kind of show where Spider-Man doesn't like have any like webs on his suit at all. It's like completely clear. This one, on the other hand, in the gameplay, this one actually does have like Spider-Man does have like webbing like over his suit, and it does look a bit better. But I'd say the gameplay is still pretty good, but the story is not as good as the first one. Now, this one is like PS2 version of these two, and they made so much improvements. This is like Spider-Man. This is pretty much the movie Spider-Man game, but it's like the sequel to this, because the like features is like this. It's the same concept as this is like the same concept as these two, and the graphics are like slightly better because it's PlayStation 2, but it's the game version of the Spider-Man movie game. I'm sure lots of you people who had a PS2 or an Xbox have played this, or a GameCube. I mean, this was actually pretty good. The first time I've ever played it, I was like, the thing I did not like about it is that you couldn't go on ground. Like, if you try to even go on ground and you manage to, like, it's like automatic game over, because you couldn't go like very, very low or very high, or the web swinging improved. Like, instead of like 2 at a time, like PS1 version, like it's constant when you're web swinging. It's like it keeps it going. So they have improved on the web swinging. They've improved on the fighting skills. They have improved on like how to use webbing on bad guys. So yeah, there were a lot of things that were improved on here. I'd say the only mission I do not like, well, for a time I did not like it because this mission because so if you've played this game like before, I think you probably know what I'm talking about. When you go into Oscorp and you're sneaking around, there's like a bunch of shadows, and you have to like stay in the shadows and not get caught by cameras or get caught by robots. Now, those robots were very hard to actually fight, because not only are they constantly shooting at you, but they're constantly shooting like grenades at you, constantly. But it's like, and it's like they hit you before you can even do anything. When you get up and they hit you again, you can't really like do anything. Like, it's very hard to actually do anything. When you even try to hit them, those bombs will like hit you before you even hit them. So I'd say in those kinds of missions in this game, do not get caught, because otherwise you have to either hide, or if those super soldiers find you, it's like you would have to, I'd say, either get away fast, or you're pretty much a goner. But other than that, this game is actually pretty nice. I do like that they do add more. So at the time, the video game versions were better than the movies. But I guess when Beanox started doing Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, the movies were, it was like the other way around. It's like the movies were better than the games, because because Beanox didn't really make Spider-Man games correctly when it came to Amazing Spider-Man. Now, there's so much to talk about this one, because this is one of the best ones out of my childhood, to the point where I never really wanted to stop playing. This was the first Spider-Man game to where it was completely open world, and you could go on ground, you could web swing, you full web swing, like you can go as high as you can. You can go on ground. You can find whatever crime you can fight whatever crime you find. And the game just goes on and on and on and on. This at the time was one of the best Spider-Man games in the world. And this was actually the reason why I wanted a PS2 so badly, because I wanted to play this. So I'm going to tell you a story. So at the time, my uncle had I'm not going to say his name because of privacy reasons, but my uncle used to have a PS2 back in 2004. Now, he also had this one as well, but one time I walked into his room when he was living with my grandma, and he was playing this game, and I was like, it's like it blew my mind that you were able to like control Spider-Man and in like the entire city of Manhattan, where you could like jump real high, do full web swings, wall crawl, and fight whatever crime you could find. I thought that was the coolest thing ever, because before Spider-Man 2, you could only do so much. Now, there's so many other Spider-Man games like this now that makes this game like not as impressive, but at the time, this was the best. And it's still a great game. It's like I still play this once in a while. And it's like if you're a fan of PlayStation 2 and you really like Spider-Man, I most likely recommend this game, because this was the first where it was open world. You were able to go anywhere in Manhattan, fight crime, do a full web swing, wall crawl. If you push like the L2 button, if you hold the L2 button while moving, like you can make him like do like full runs where he's like actually sprinting, and you hold the X button, like you can jump real high. Like before Spider-Man 2, you could only do so much. So with games with these, you could only do so much. You couldn't go on ground. You couldn't go very far. This one, you had to stay in like a specific area. You couldn't go anywhere else. And if you try to go like off, like basically out of bounds, then he turns around and then goes back. You have to stay in like a certain area. You couldn't go on ground. You couldn't go very high. This one, you can go anywhere in Manhattan. You can fight whatever crime you could find. You had to like earn points, a certain amount of points, to actually like get to the next chapter. That's pretty much how you were able to like beat the game, is where you earn enough points to get to the next chapter. And sometimes if you get enough points, you'd have to go to these things called Spidey stores and buy upgrades in order to actually go to the next chapter. Doc Ock took me many tries to actually beat the first time. Like on the train, it took me many, many times to actually beat Doc Ock. But if any of you are first time ever playing this game and you get to Doc Ock, here's a trick. When you dodge his attacks, click the web button real quick after dodging, and then it'll web up his tentacles. And once you web them all up, then he can't go anywhere for like a few seconds. That's your point to like, You beat him a lot faster doing that. But if you've already like gone past that part and you want to like challenge yourself with it, then I'd say just dodge as quick as you can and then hit him. But it'd be very hard to do so. But yeah, this is a great game. It's still a great game to this day, and we wouldn't have any of the other Spider-Man games. We would not have this one if it wasn't for this. because this was the first open world Spider-Man game. Now, I know a lot of people on social media hate this game, and if it's because of the web swinging, I can understand that. But I do think this is actually better than Spider-Man 2 because the graphics are much, much better. You could go, you could even like go on the map and actually like click on whatever mission you wanted to do. It's like, why is that not cool? It's like, I think that's awesome. And the best part about this game is that from time to time, like in certain moments of the mission, like pictures of like control buttons will actually like show up, and you have to like click them really fast. It's what made this game like more challenging than Spider-Man 2. So like, look at this. The graphics look much more better than the PS2 version. It even looks a little better than Spider-Man 2. Same concept. Better graphics, though. I'd say the only downside about this one is that the web swinging is, like, so slow. So, it's like you can't really get very far in the city with one web swing because it's like, choo, 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 instead of Spider-Man 2 was, well, it's like you'd do a full swing like that. Spider-Man 3 is, so it took forever to even get almost anywhere far in Manhattan. That was the only thing that sucked. So if you guys do not like this game because of that, I can totally understand. But other than that, the graphics are much more improved. The missions were pretty cool. My favorite part was always when the buttons would show up and you have to like click them really fast. I mean, I think that was one way to actually challenge players. So they did something different with this one. And I think it's much better than the PS2 version because the PS2 version, the graphics are horrible compared to these two. Now here are the best ones. Can't believe this video was so long. Now, I know a lot of you people love I know a lot of you probably are a fan of these games now. This is actually nowadays this is actually one of the best Spider-Man games out there because it literally fixes like it fixed not every problem, but it fixed the majority of other problems that other Spider-Man games had. One of them, for example, is when you web swing and you reach to a building, if you hold the R2 button, instead of like just hitting the building, he just automatically just runs up the building and then over the rooftop. And you can like web zip to like a different like you can like web zip to a specific location, and then while you hold the X button, like you jump up in midair and then web swing, and then so the web swing has improved, the wall crawling has improved, the fighting, the dodging has been improved. There were a lot of things in this game that were very much improved compared to all the other Spider-Man games out there. And these are actually very long Spider-Man games. And it's like, I gotta say, good job, Insomniac. I think this was a huge improvement compared to every other Spider-Man game out there. I'm sorry, this video is so long, but there was just so much I had to say about a couple other games. This one, Miles Morales version. So this is pretty much, I mean, you get the idea. Same concept. The some of the features look a little different, but it's the same concept. It's just you have a different Spider-Man. So, um, you were able to like use electricity from time to time on criminals, so that's a plus. Um, Spider-Man 2 is actually Spider-Man 2 I would put number 1 on the list because the not only does it show Venom, but it also shows Sandman and Craven. So it does show like a lot of interesting villains in this one. And at some point it does show Spider-Man in the black suit. This is actually the best Spider-Man game out there so far. And I don't know when Spider-Man 3 will come out, but they say they probably won't put it out for a very long time, which I can't really complain because there's 2 other ones of this out already, and it's like I can still enjoy the other 3 in the meantime. So like, I'm not really like in a hurry for a Spider-Man 3. But this is actually this is like number 1 on my list because of the gameplay, because of how well. The only downside about it is how long it is. But other than that, I just don't know what I can say about this one except better graphics, black suit, better villains. There is at the beginning of this game, Peter Parker does get fired because he was trying to teach a class and Sandman showed up, so he ditched them. Which that actually really sucks because I wouldn't say it's entirely his fault, but I guess if I were Peter Parker, I'd say you need to, like, I would have told him to actually figure out how to deal with Sandman by himself, because I'm not losing my job over this. It just kind of sucks that he lost his job over something he really had to do because he abandoned his class while during an emergency because he had to go out and be Spider-Man and try to stop the emergency. And at the end, he gets fired. That really sucks. But I guess that's what happens when you're a superhero. It's like people as kids really want to be superheroes. Well, to you kids that actually like want to be superheroes, I gotta say, like, you will have a very difficult life as a superhero, and Spider-Man actually proves that. I just don't think a lot of people understand that. But anyway, from time to time you can like switch from Peter Parker to Miles Morales, so like you get to play like both characters in the game. It's got Craven, Lizard, Venom, they show Tombstone, but he's not a bad guy anymore. I'd say the only thing that kind of like screws up Venom is that instead of Eddie Brock being Venom, Harry Osborn ends up being Venom, which I'm like, it's like, okay, I can see why he has the symbiote, but it's kind of weird that Harry Osborn is Venom instead of Eddie Brock. I find that odd. But anyway, I don't know what I don't even know what I can say anymore. It's like I think I said everything I needed. I don't think any other Spider-Man game could get any better than this one. but I could be wrong. I think that's all I can say. But yeah, that's all of my ratings on worst to best Spider-Man games, in my opinion. Tell me in the comments below, like, what's your favorite Spider-Man game, and like, what was your childhood, like, tell me in the comments below, like, what's your childhood Spider-Man game, which one's your favorite, well, which one was your favorite then, which ones have you played, out of the ones that have shown, which ones you didn't like. That's so everything that I've rated, that's just my take on what, that's just my own opinion of like what I think is worst and best. If you have a different opinion on it, if you have a favorite Spider-Man game, or if there are Spider-Man games like you disliked, tell me which ones in the comments below and why. And I'm sorry that this video is so long, but it's because it's because it was kind of a long list. Because it was from like multiple different platforms, including Game Boy, Nintendo DS, PSP, PS2, PS4, PS3. So I guess that's it for now.